Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are doing well. Listen, I am exhausted. I am tired. I hope I don't look like a zombie in this video. It's been crazy for a couple of weeks, going through some changes for certain things. Some unexpected things have happened. Nevertheless, the show must go on. So with all that being said, Elliot here, welcome back to the Fragrance Well. So I've actually had a couple of requests to do a video focusing on, let's just call it what it is, underrated gems, or maybe just lesser known fragrances with the grand scope of fragcomm. I've actually been wanting to do this for a while, so I guess some of my viewers are kind of tuned into what I'm thinking right now, because I wanted to do this about 2 months ago. I said, all right, that's something I'm going to do in the future whenever I'm ready to do it. We are at that point, so that's basically the scope of this video. Let's get right into it. We got 8 fragrances here that I would consider underrated gems, and when I say underrated, I mean, as I already kind of stated, the grand scope of fragcomm. I mean all of it. These are not fragrances you are going to see hyped. These are not fragrances that you can go to pretty much any corner of fragcomm and somebody has heard of them, at least as far as I know. So anyway, let's get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. And as always, I will leave links to the fragrances in the description below if they are available. Let's get into it. All right, guys, first one's going to be coming from Abdul Samad Al-Qurashi, and this is Safari Extreme. Abdul Samad Al-Qurashi, Safari Extreme. So the big thing with this fragrance is, well, first of all, let me just state that this is the only one I have from this house. Let's just put it this way. If you are a little bit more inept to the higher end brands that come from the Middle East, you would know all about this house, because apparently this is like a legendary house in Middle Eastern perfumery, one that's been around a while. But you know, here in America, you hear Middle Eastern fragrances, people automatically think clone houses, and that's just unfair. So I would say just about every higher end Middle Eastern house is in some ways underrated because, well, you know, they're not as cheap as the, clone fragrances are inspired by, or just the cheaper offerings. But just like you can find in American perfumery, you can get cheap stuff all the way up to ridiculously expensive stuff. It's the same with Middle Eastern perfumery. But this fragrance here definitely is one that highlights the higher end of Middle Eastern perfumery, and probably not even the highest end of it. This is basically a jasmine, rose, and oud fragrance. Jasmine is one of those notes that's not everybody's cup of tea, but this one does it in a smooth, creamy way that does not smell indolic at all. If you don't know what that is, it can kind of smell like poop. So this one does not have that. The oud in here comes across kind of in a smoky, incensey way. Fragrance is smooth, it's regal, it is truly a beautiful scent, and definitely highlights the better parts of, or should I say the higher quality, higher end parts of niche perfumery, as we would consider from Middle Eastern houses. So once again, from Abdul Samad Al-Qurashi, this is Safari Extreme. All right, this next one's going to be coming from Dar Al-Tib. Pretty much the same reason as Safari Extreme. It's a Middle Eastern house you probably would not know about unless someone told you about it. And this is Dar Al-Tib, and it is Noon. Dar Al-Tib, Noon. And by the way, the only reason I know about him is because I found out about it from other people who are just a little bit more in tune with Middle Eastern perfumery that's not just simply clone houses. This fragrance here, the entire inspiration for the scent is sandalwood, but you do get some other elements from this fragrance. You definitely get some spice. I definitely get a cardamom like spice. There's like a pepperiness to the scent as well. You definitely get some oud right up front. The box does not state what type of oud, but I believe it is Cambodian oud or something close to it. Just with my experience with Cambodian oud. But yeah, sandalwood presented in one of the most luxurious ways I've ever put my nose on. This is an excellent fragrance that, you know, is centered around the spices and wood, so a great autumn option as well. And I would love to check out more fragrances from this house, as well as the previous one, Abdul Samad Al-Qurashi. But it can be hard sometimes to get samples from these fragrances, so, you know, both of these were blind buys to me. Thankfully, they worked out. So once again, from Dar Al-Tib, this is Noon. All right, guys, next one's going to be coming from Day 3 Fragrances. We've got Desert Rain. Day 3 Fragrances, Desert Rain. Now, I've already talked about this a little bit on the channel. This is a very recent release, one of my newer acquisitions, so I'm obviously giving it the rounds in the videos. This fragrance here is spicy, fresh, kind of dusty, sandy, and woody. It is a amazing masculine scent, in my opinion. I do find it to be a little bit unique. I think it kind of stands on its own in this, vast world of perfumery that can be kind of hard to do. But this one here is, in my opinion, one of the best releases, if not the best release from the house specifically. And I think one of the best releases for this year. I'm kind of highlighting the house more so than just this fragrance. Day 3 Fragrances is definitely gaining a lot of steam in fragcomm, but I still think it is relatively underrated. If you go to, shall we say, the largest sectors, largest influencers of fragcomm, I don't really see them extensively talking about a house like Day 3 Fragrance, but maybe they just haven't discovered it yet for themselves. But in my opinion, this is a house that simply does not miss. And what I mean by that is every fragrance they've ever released, in my opinion, has been excellent. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to own all of them, but I don't think they have a bad fragrance yet. They really put a lot of attention into what they put out and make sure they put out good stuff. They don't just release stuff for the sake of releasing something, which is something you can often get from most indie houses, in my opinion. So once again, from Day 3 Fragrances, this one here is Desert Rain. All right, next one's gonna be coming from Francesca Bianchi. We're gonna go with Etruscan Water. Francesca Bianchi, Etruscan Water. Now I will say this much, this scent in particular is not gonna be for everyone. This is a very kind of old world scent presented in a modern way, very traditional Chypre kind of attitude to it, but with some modern characteristics. It's a little bit warmer than maybe the average Chypre. You definitely get the patchouli aspect, you get the oak moss aspect, you get some citruses here, even presented in a slight fruity way. There's some really deep resinous and ambergris like notes in this. It's like super dark aquatic in a weird way. So yeah, this scent in particular is not for everyone, but Francesca Bianchi puts out some very powerful, very aggressive fragrances, but she also puts out some stuff that anybody can like. It's overall not a house that everybody knows about or everybody talks about. So in my opinion, the house is underrated, but I do fully understand that just there's a lot of offerings from this house that aren't necessarily for everybody. But if you like those kind of deeper, darker, more interesting, more daring fragrances, Francesca Bianchi might be a house really worth checking out. So once again, from Francesca Bianchi, this one here is Etruscan Water. All right, next one's coming from Vita Bella Perfumes. This is Alabaster. Vita Bella Perfumes Alabaster. All right, so look, I have talked about this scent quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit. I've talked about it a number of times on the channel. This one here is a very fruity, juicy pear, coconut, jasmine, sugary notes, musk fragrance. Think of it like a somewhat tropical, warm weather scent that is, very appealing, very attractive smelling. Something that's relatively unisex. A lot of guys might think it's a little too feminine, but that's fine. It's not necessarily for everyone, but if you like juicy pear notes, this fragrance here nailed it out of the park. Another fragrance I have from this house is Uomo. He calls it Uomo, and that one's basically a cherry oud wood fragrance. Also very well done. And I'm not the biggest fan of cherry fragrances. That doesn't really appeal to me that much, usually because they can come across kind of cough syrupy. I like his because it does not have that feature. Full disclosure, this fragrance was sent to me by the brand owner, who actually happens to make YouTube videos himself. So very much an independent fragrance house, but from the two I've experienced so far, I think he does really, really good stuff. And obviously this is probably, if I'm just kind of looking, the most underrated house here, because this fragrance here has got one of the best pear notes I have smelled so far. So once again, from Vita Bella Perfumes, this is Alabaster. All right, next one's gonna be coming from Get Right Fragrances, and this one is Berry Oud. Get Right Fragrances, Berry Oud. This is another house that has actually been around for a little while. Matter of fact, they've been around, I think, the entire time I've been collecting, which is going on like 4 years now, maybe even longer. But they're just now starting to get their footing. They're starting to gain a little bit more steam, and this release here is going to help with that. This is it kind of what it says. It's a fruity, oud-like fragrance. Think, more the westernized, cleaner, more wearable oud for most people. The fruity notes in here, to me, kind of comes across almost smelling like a strawberry milkshake in a weird way. Strawberry notes, maybe some tart like blackcurrant type notes in there. There's some sweetness here, but it's not like ridiculously sweet. It's not overbearing. And this is a perfect fall weather scent, perfect for the upcoming fall season right now. This is an excellent buy, in my opinion. Again, more so kind of highlighting the house here. They've got some other stuff. Now, I don't love all their fragrances, to be completely honest, but the signature fragrance they have, that is a perfect, just easy to wear, use it for whatever, masculine, modern fragrance. That one is excellent. A lot of people like the black, which is kind of like the night out fragrance. They have a really nice rose one that just came out. And there's also like this cherry sweet one that's kind of marketed towards the women, but men can certainly pull off too. And this is one of their latest releases, and I think this one here is going to gain a lot of steam and help propel them into a little bit more visibility in fragcomm. So once again, from Get Right Fragrances, this is Berry Oud. All right, next one's coming from Savoir Faire. This is Hellaflora. Savoir Faire, Hellaflora. Another indie house that is not invisible in fragcomm, but maybe only known in certain sectors, so to speak. This is another example house where I think, when you talk about indie fragrance brands, you can honestly find some very unique, different stuff that is wearable, can appeal to a wide audience, or maybe appeal to certain niches, if you will. This fragrance here it's like a floral fragrance for men. I mean, it's obviously anybody can wear it, but it's a floral fragrance that has masculine edge to it. Collection of florals here, notes like I think iris is in this. I think magnolia is in this. There may be a little bit of jasmine in here. This one has this kind of peppery, spicy yuzu thing going on. Musky notes. It is an excellent fragrance, especially if you like wearing florals in warmer weather. But honestly, I think this stuff would smell excellent in the fall also. But yeah, this is a great fragrance release here, and they just dropped 3 new ones. I'm really curious to check those out. If I like them, you probably will see them on the channel. And another house, once again, that I think it could have more notoriety. And again, it's gaining popularity, but I think it is still considered underrated in my opinion. So once again, from Savoir Faire, this is Hellaflora. All right, and last but certainly not least, coming from Amarud, this is Silver Birch. Amarud Silver Birch. All right, now I will say this much. This house I do think is underrated, but maybe not as much as the other ones I've talked about in the video. But again, it's like certain sectors, maybe certain people know about this house, others maybe not so much. And even if some of the biggest influencers have talked about this house, they've talked about like maybe 1 or 2 fragrances. And to be fair, now I've only smelled 2 of them, and there happen to be 2 successful blind buys. I don't encourage blind buying. Real quick though, what is this? This one here is like a fig, citrusy, fruity, slightly spicy, springtime fragrance. The fragrance just smells like springtime to me. And it's also a ridiculously powerful fragrance. Now, the 2 fragrances I have are equally as powerful, and I get the sense that this house makes some powerful scents. I'm sure there are some that maybe don't have that characteristic, but again, I just 2 in a row, 2 completely different fragrances. I get the sense that this house has some powerful fragrances, which is interesting because so many people care about performance. I mean, I'm one of the guys that don't, but I am way in the minority on that. Most people want well-performing fragrances. I would think this house alone, at least based on my experience so far, would have more notoriety just simply because of that. But at the same time, these fragrances smell good. Don't get me wrong. It's not that they just last long and they don't smell that good. This scent is excellent. I have Lunar Vetiver if you're a vetiver lover, and also you like note of tobacco flower. That one is excellent. Some of the more popular fragrances I still need to get my nose on. What is it? Whetstone. They got a oud one I think a lot of people like. And then they have quite a few offerings. So I actually I need to explore this house more too. So not only do I think it's underrated, I'm not even giving it the just due that it deserves, but we'll get to it. Once again, from Amarud, this one here is Silver Birch. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you would like to, let me know down in the comments below some fragrances that you would consider as underrated gems. Look, everybody thinks that they have fragrances that are considered underrated and or overhyped. I don't need to hear overhyped ones. I just want to hear the underrated ones. Would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.